marketing. Now, it doesn't matter how well we do with the online website or digital presence, whatever that is going to be, unless we can tell the world we exist, there's no point. So that's when marketing kicks in, right? So what we're going to do today, we're going to cover some of the key areas when it comes to the digital side of marketing. We'll first and foremost look into purchase behavior. So we'll look into key approaches to understand first and foremost who we're trying to serve. We'll look into social media as one of the most popular channels to not just engage with customers but promote services and products as well. A little into pricing strategies and how companies are doing that. Marketing automation, an important element when it comes to doing well with keeping up with huge amount of customers when it comes to your online business. A bit of mobile, video, email, and weekly activity of what we want to do next week. So, marketing in general is such a huge topic, and you know it, but we'll be covering some of the key areas that I think are going to be essential for you. So it's going to be part of your research to extend your reading and your knowledge further. Now, before we do anything, we've got to have a good understanding as to what are some of the key processes of understanding purchase behavior. So what are some of the key aspects and elements that we need to be thinking about when we're trying to understand our consumers, right? Now again, in general, a huge amount of companies get this very basic thing quite wrong, right? Because what they do is that they try to just create different marketing activities through different individual channels, but they don't have really good understanding as to what they're trying to achieve and who they're trying to serve and what's the purpose. So, 5 stages in the consumer decision process. Now, consumers go through all these 5 different stages before they're going to buy something from us. So, knowing these stages is quite important. And if you wonder why does it matter to get this understanding, is because we will start to introduce processes in between these stages so we can hopefully get some of that attention from the customers, because once we have that attention, we might likely be able to sell them something, right? So making sure that we've got a clear understanding as to what happens, and in combination with this and the customer journey, we should be able to get a really good understanding what customers do, and of course, when do they decide, and so on, okay? So throughout these stages, there are several things that happen. Customers start with what? With a need. They've got a need, they've got a problem in their head, right? And that need, that problem needs information. So that's when they start to search for information. However, information search nowadays happens all over the place. And you might wonder, well, why do we need to think about this? Well, we need to think about this because once we know where our customers are being informed around our products or services, we will then go after those places so that we can reach out to those customers, make that decision easier, and hopefully move them through the customer journey and the purchase decision, so then they complete that task that they've got, right? So the next one, once they found information, is they start to evaluate those alternatives, right? Now, even at that stage, where they're about to make that decision, they are still being interfered by social media, friends, discussions, groups, communities online, and so on and so forth, right? And so again, being aware that there are things happening in the middle is quite important. Because then as a business, you need to go in and try to provide that information, so hopefully you can get their attention, and by getting their attention, hopefully you can get them through the customer journey, so then they buy from you instead of buying from somebody else. Then after that, the fourth one is of course the actual purchase. Now once they're being informed about things that they want to buy, they will decide to purchase the product or service, right? But again, the problem here is that even when that actual purchase is about to happen, they are, well, flooded with information right? And nowadays you can argue that it actually takes a lot longer to make a decision to buy than it used to take a while ago, because of the amount of information we have, right? Now, as soon as you decide what you need to buy, you go online, and that's when the challenge starts, because there's so much information about products and services, reviews, and so on, that it becomes quite difficult, and sometimes time-consuming, and a lot longer than we think it normally takes to buy something online, right? Simply because of the amount of information. And again, in fact, some research suggests that nowadays, it's actually a lot longer to decide to buy something online than it used to be a while ago, simply because of the amount of information we have. Now again, that's why cutting through the crowds as a business and getting to those customers with the information they need is really important. And that's why hopefully customer journey we talked about can help you do just that. After that, we are saying, and we are arguing with our research, that as important as getting customers to buy, it's really important to have a good strategy of understanding their post-purchase behavior. So customers tend to do things after they purchased as well. So once they complete the purchase, that's not the end of the story, right? Because customers tend to do different things, right? Some of them tend to share their experience with the others online on social media. Some of them tend to review things, right? Some of them don't do anything. But in general, customers engage with the products and services that they buy even after they purchase. And now, if you wonder as to why do we care about this, it's because looking after the existing customers is three times cheaper than getting the new customers, right? So ultimately, try to build up on relationship with your customers instead of just going after new ones, which is something that every business will do and they should do. It's going to be quite important. So once we've done this, we've got a really good understanding as to what are some of the key things that we need to be aware of. Now, let's look into more details as to what do those shoppers, browsers and buyers online look like in terms of percentages. Well, shoppers, almost 90% of internet users nowadays are engaged, and 70% of them are buyers, and 60% of them are just browsing and hopefully purchasing offline, right? So you start to see that the percentage of people buying online is growing, right? It's growing very much at the rate that is quite incredible even to follow. By the time we finish the module, that's going to change as a rate itself as well. 1/3 of the online retail purchase is influenced by online activity. So this alone tells us that we can't just ignore what happens online, different channels. From social media to pay-per-click advertising to affiliate marketing, all sorts of things, we cannot ignore them. E-commerce and traditional commerce are coupled, so part of continuum on consuming behavior. So in other words, we've got to make sure that in general we get a good understanding as to what it means to have a physical presence and an online presence as well. And the research actually suggests that those brands that do have both, they do have a physical presence and online presence as well, do tend to do quite well. And the reason for it is because when customers want to search for things offline and view and touch those products and services, they can just go to the local store. Whereas for businesses that are totally, well, they're 100% online, they don't really have got a physical store, it becomes really hard because customers can't go and first and foremost get a feel, get experience of being in their shop, and then second, touching and feeling those products that they're about to buy. So, how consumers shop? Well, they are very much highly intentional, goal-oriented. They do quite a lot of shopping through search engines. In other words, they start with either Bing, Yahoo or Google to inform themselves. And nowadays, if you notice, if you go to Google, you can actually search for products for like shopping instead of just searching in general. So in other words, Google will do a little bit of comparisons on pricing, okay, and the shops you're about to buy from. So Google tends to drive quite a bit of traffic to the actual e-commerce site, not just from the search, but actually shopping for the products. Right? And again, we don't know the exact date on this one, because Google hasn't actually shared publicly as yet, but it's quite a big traffic driver. Marketplaces like Amazon and eBay do drive lots of traffic online. Specific retail sites as well, like for instance fashion retail sites like Facebook and so on. And of course 10% of internet users don't shop online, simply because a good amount of those people just don't trust the online world just yet. Okay? Now, that means that businesses and retailers have got lots of work to do to convince those people that it's actually fine to shop online. And how do they do that? Well, in general, they do that by ensuring that they introduce key reassurance elements throughout the customer journey, so people don't mind sharing credit card details. So in other words, you can argue that the reason why people still don't trust brands to shop online is because they have not yet had a proper customer journey put in place. So, again, the other issue is, now if you can just settle down now because you're late, okay, and then you're going all around the room, disturbing everyone else, I don't think that's cool, right? So you really got to make effort, because it's not fair against other students who come here on time and they focus and they prepare and everything else. And so it's quite important. So again, you're of course distracting me as well. Where was I? Okay, you see, it's not good, right? Anyway, let's get back to it. The other problem is, the other reason why people don't buy online is because they struggle with things online. For instance, shipping costs, returns and deliveries and so on. Now, shipping by default is becoming a free thing nowadays. And so when companies start to get people to pay for the products they buy for the shipping, they start to lose their customers. So in other words, it's becoming like a default feature offered in almost every single website. Returns is another big reason why people don't buy as well. Multi-channel marketing plan. Now, in other words, to be able to succeed online, brands can't really do that unless they bring multi-channel experience for the customers, which means that it's not enough just to have websites, it's not enough just to have social media, it's not enough just to have search engine optimization process that we talked about, but actually they need to have multiple channels, right? From social marketing to mobile marketing and offline marketing as well. In other words, that bit is not dead. It's very expensive, but still works. Okay? But again, less and less companies are investing into offline marketing because it's very expensive. TV advertising is still hugely expensive. And so unless you're a large brand like ASOS, you can't, or like Next or whatever it is, you can't really afford to promote your products and services. Establishing the customer relationship is also very important. Now, how do you do that? But of course, you do that by trying to be where the customers are and then helping them out, and hopefully through that get them their attention, so then you can convert them from visitors into buyers, right? So that's why nowadays companies can't just sit back with their actual website that is very nice, very good, and then hope that everything will be fine because customers are going to come to us. That's not going to happen any longer, because competition is so high and it's so hard, it's so crowded out there, that unless you go after the customers in the right places, at the right time, to get their attention with the right content, you can't do it. So it's a lot more difficult and it's very complex to get that customer attention, because that attention means potentially business to you, right? And nowadays, every brand competes for consumers' attention. They do absolutely everything. You can look at all sorts of brands and you'll start to see that. If you look at Red Bull, everything they do is to get our attention. They sponsor so many events, so many things, to the point that you wonder, well, how much actually of their marketing budget goes into those things? I suspect quite a substantial amount of money goes there, right? The other thing is, as I said to you earlier, we need to be able to have these presences in different channels so that we can inform and hopefully educate our users. Remember, because customers online, they've got all sorts of issues and all sorts of needs for information. So what do we need to do? We need to be able to get there, understand what they need, and also hopefully serve with that content so that we can educate them and we can prove to them that we're worth it. Once we've done that really well, chances are that when it comes to their decision process, they'll be thinking about us. Very, very simple example is the one that I use quite a lot. For instance, your local garage guy, right? Your local guy that really sort of repairs hundreds of cars, constantly gives you ideas on how to look after your car. And every time you need help, you just go and just ask for information, he'll give it to you. So throughout the year, he keeps giving you advice entirely free. What happens when your car breaks down or your car needs an MOT? You're not going to go to someone else before you talk to your local guy because he's already helped you so much without trying to sell you anything. He just wanted to help out. So he proved himself he's worth it. And that helped you and him build that relationship, that trust. So then you know that if you decide to get your car repaired at his place, he's not going to overcharge you. But he'll just charge you the right amount for the right work that needs to be done. Right? So it's the same online. It's very similar. So in other words, now brands need to get out. Go out there. Find different customers at different channels and different places. Try to learn what their needs are. And then help them out through the content at the right time in the right place. So then hopefully, with that piece of information, those customers are going to get their jobs done. Whether they're looking for information, a review, or whatever it is. They are moving from one stage to another. But at that moment in time, you're not necessarily asking for them to buy something from you. You're just being useful. And that's when social media comes in, and it's quite handy. This way you shape customer experience. In other words, you are telling your potential customers that whatever they decide to go and buy something anywhere else, you don't really mind as long as they have been engaging with your brand, with your business, because at some point they will be quite thankful for the support that you've given them, and then at some point they'll come and hopefully give you a try. Yeah? Online advertising, if we talk a little bit about that, there's so many channels and options for online advertising. Display search, mobile messaging, sponsorship, classified lead generation, emails, and so on. Fastest growing from online advertising, and advantages of online advertising go to the audience between 18 and 34. Again, this is the audience that engages almost across different channels, so omni-channel sort of audience. And normally we can do that through ad targeting, price discrimination, personalization as well. Traditional online marketing and advertising tools, we're not going to get into the details on these ones, but again, the research still suggests that these channels are alive and kicking. Even though when you talk to some industry experts out there, they'll say, well, email is dead, affiliate marketing doesn't work, and so on and so forth. But actually, the data from the research that you read around recommends totally different things, because actually the email is still a powerful thing, and if done well and if done right, actually can get businesses quite good amount of sales as well. Search engine marketing and advertising is quite important. Now, we talked about SEO last time, but actually making sure that you've got a very good process put in place for your SEO is absolutely essential. Spending a bit of time on pay-per-click advertising to help that growth of your SEO organic growth is as important as doing anything online when it comes to advertising. There are different types of search engine advertising. Sponsored links, we talked about last time. You see that in search engines all the time. Keyword advertising, so you can advertise your products and services through keywords. Network keyword advertising, which means that you can tell Google that you want your marketing material to be advertised across different networks, from mobile to tablets and PC as well. Email marketing, as I said to you earlier, email in general includes several benefits. Mostly is inexpensive, so it doesn't really cost a lot. Average sort of like cost on emails and average sort of click-through rate is around 6%. Measuring and tracking responses is a lot easier because you can do that through analytics. Personalization of messages and others also drives quite good amount of traffic into the website. Three main challenges are still there, are going to be there, are the spam, anti-spam software, and poorly targeted purchase email lists. So companies in general build up their email lists through using different software, but the problem is that they don't actually know how to serve those users. Okay? And you start to see now even some large companies still send you email newsletters that are not relevant to you. Right? Because they haven't thought through very well as to what your needs are and what you need to receive in that specific moment in time. Other types of traditional marketing, affiliate marketing, again, you are paying someone to drive some of that traffic for you. You're paying someone to get some of your customers in your website. Okay? And again, viral marketing, that's mainly driven by social media. We'll talk a little bit about this later on. But again, viral marketing is that piece of content that travels as fast as virus that travels in the world today. Okay? And the lead generation marketing, of course, this one is all about trying to build up content and trying to engage with the users, so then you can qualify some of those users to become your leads and hopefully selling them something in the end and converting them into customers. Social media marketing, blog marketing is still very powerful. So lots of companies nowadays, e-commerce companies, instead of just having their e-commerce store, they actually have their blog as well. So you can click on their blog because they constantly provide information about products and services, or maybe industry trends or issues that customers face all the time. Game marketing is of course quite important as well, because we can reach out to a large audience for social and mobile games. You can use branded sort of content and to drive customers to purchase moments, and of course at restaurants and retail stores as well. So what this leads us to, your customers are not just connected, they're engaged as well. And that's something that John and Tim from O'Reilly said, which I think is quite powerful, because until now, customers were connected, but that was it. Now that engagement is growing constantly, right? There is a lot more people that just used to be connected with their profiles on social media actually start to do stuff online as well. Which means that you will need to be out there very, very active in engaging and helping out those engaged visitors. And what this leads to is that now, well, thanks to these powerful channels online, so like the power from the firms is somehow shifting to customers, right? In other words, nowadays customers have a lot more power than they used to have. Because in general, what they had was a telephone number that they can phone to, wait for 25 minutes, and then give up in the end because they couldn't get to the right people, or ignore that telephone altogether because it wasn't a free phone, so you had to pay for it. And email in general didn't work very well at all times because companies just decided to ignore them. But now with these new emerging technologies and new emerging social networks, which are all public, companies can't just afford to ignore you, because if they do, before they realize, that piece of content can go viral. And once that goes viral, can actually have a pretty bad effect on the brand. Now it takes a long time to build a brand, and we know that. But it actually takes a very short time to destroy it. And before you realize, the brand can go down so quick that you cannot even believe it. Because people and those customers drive those brands and through experience that they get. But at some point where there's quite a good group of people against those specific brands because of the experience that they have received so far, that automatically means that those brands are going to be affected. So, why do we need to think about this? Well, we need to be able to understand social networks, so then as brands, we can go out there and identify places where our customers hang out. Because once we do that, then we're likely to get some of their attention, otherwise our competitors will do just that. And once they do that, they could pretty much get their attention and maybe get some of that traffic too. So it's absolutely essential that we work really hard to get that process put in place, because the research nowadays suggests that customers have never been more flexible and more disloyal to the brand, right? They tend to switch from one service to another with a click of a mouse. So they have never ever been shopping around in different sort of stores for using different brands than ever before. Which means that it becomes so hard and very difficult, very complex to get people to stick to your service. You wonder why Amazon Prime invested, Jeff Bezos invested, what, around 114 million or something for Top Gear dudes, right? Amazon pretty much invested over hundreds of millions of pounds to get the Top Gear team, right? To create unique, exclusive content for Amazon Prime members, right? And they're not doing just that, they're doing a lot more. They're creating original content, so as an Amazon Prime member, you will receive something, you'll see something that nobody else does. And they're investing huge money. In addition to that, they're giving you free delivery. They're even giving you free same-day delivery. They're giving you discount. They're giving you so many things. So then you'll stick to Amazon and you will never go anywhere else. So you see why now it's becoming so hard, to the point that some critics out there actually suggesting that they're not sure how much of the actual money Amazon makes from their Prime users. It does pretty well, but they are starting to raise issues as to how much is being invested into keeping up those users in their platform. So again, you start to see now why that's really important. Nowadays, companies are becoming media houses. They're not just companies selling stuff. When you think of Red Bull, you just don't think of the company that only sells energy drinks. You think of the companies that, sponsors really extreme sports and things that are quite entertaining and exciting and so on and so forth around the world. So, when you think of Amazon, yeah, you start to think now of a company that sells all sorts of things online. But as soon as you become a Prime member, Prime user, you don't think of Amazon just being an e-commerce website, because they're doing a lot more. Nowadays, with their 1-hour delivery and same-day delivery that they plan to launch, and all their projects on drones and so on and so forth, actually you start to think that Amazon might be going after UPS and FedEx and DHL as well. It's not going to take long before they're going to do the whole thing themselves. They've got their warehouses around the world, huge warehouses. They've got the whole fulfillment process in place. They'll just end up doing the shipping and deliveries themselves as well. Okay? So mobile marketing and advertising, of course, is a mix. 35% of online marketing grows rapidly. Major formats, rich media, content like video, games, email, SMS is still quite powerful. In-store messaging, quick response, QR codes here and there, different places use it, but it hasn't gone mainstream. And app marketing is still quite powerful, especially for those brands that are giving out these free apps into the app stores. So, how do we get that attention online? Well, we've got to have a bit of a plan, so we've got to have a social media strategy. And the best way to build that social media strategy is by understanding where are your strengths, where are your weaknesses, where are your threats and opportunities as a business. So that's why a SWOT analysis is quite popular, but also very simple and quite quick way to understand as to how can you do that and how can you succeed with social media. So, to do well with social, you need to try to understand who your customers are. Where do they spend most of their time? Then you start to create your own profiles and those specific channels, so then you're next to them. Okay? Very similar to High Street. Why do you wonder, oh, these top brands are in Oxford Street? Because that's where the traffic is. And you've got to be there. You've got to do absolutely everything as a brand to be there. Because if you're not there, you're not in the picture. You're not in the market. Before you realize, instead of having one store, actually some brands have got two stores. You go to Oxford Street, you've got two H&M's, you've got two Top Shops and so on. There's two different stores all the way. Because that's where the traffic is. Now, to be able to get that attention in social media, you've got to be able to build those presences so you're next to your customers. Otherwise, you've been missing out. But being just next to them is not good enough. There are other things we need to do. We will then need to understand what is that we're trying to achieve. Define clearly our goals. Now remember, we're talking about e-commerce digital, but our goals change. For some people, for some businesses, some goals might be to sell stuff. For some goals might be to raise the traffic into their blogs. Some businesses, their aims are to try and get more people subscribed to their YouTube channel, right? So different businesses have got different goals, but understanding exactly what are your goals is absolutely essential. Once we've done that, we start to get a really good understanding as to where our customers hang out. So we identify those specific channels that we need to go and build up some presences, right? But that doesn't mean that we need to be in every social channel, because it's impossible to manage all those activities, but in general, it's impossible to really succeed well in all of those channels because there's so many out there. But you need to be strategic and tactic enough to be there where your customers are. Next, you need to identify resources. Who is going to support you get that work done? In other words, build that engagement online, get that customer attention, and hopefully convert some of those users into customers. So you need to identify how many people in your company can do that. But in general, you need to have a plan, a strategy within your company, so that everyone becomes a social media advocate rather than relying on one individual. Because before you realize that individual is either going to leave your company altogether or is going to get off sick. Because there's always a limit to how much one individual can do, and looking at how much now social media requires in terms of work is actually very hard. So the next one is to publish content. That content, as I talked to you about earlier, needs to be fun, educational, which works really well. Because if it's educational, people are learning from it, are getting their jobs done because of the content you provided. So when they think about that specific industry, they'll think about your brand. So for instance, if you are DIY, like home base, okay, and you provide so much content about, looking after your garden, fixing things at home, doing painting, all sorts of things, right? If you're doing an incredible job, when those users are going to be thinking about buying something to change at their home or whatever it is, what are they going to think of? They're going to think of home base. So as much as being a company that sells these things, right, you've got to be a media house as well, right? And that's what we're going to, because nowadays you've got to prove to your customers that you're worth it. Because there's so much choice for customers, right? And therefore, getting their attention is going to be very, very hard. Once we've done that, we need to start interacting, engaging, and educating users. And if we've done all of the same things right, we will then very easily be able to introduce those offers that we have and hopefully get them to buy. And if we've done those things right, customers won't mind that we are trying to sell them something, right? If someone has been very helpful to you, right, and at some point they decide to send you an offer, you'll be fine. In fact, you will not ignore it because you will know it's coming from a trustworthy source. It's not just a direct sale coming from someone that you never heard of. So you see, you start to build up. You need to build up before you get to that moment where you're going to say, will you marry me? Right? You can't just go to Thursday and say, will you please marry me because you're beautiful. Right? It doesn't work that way. You've got to build up on it. It's the same with business. It's not rocket science. But if you've done a really good job to this point, introducing an offer will be just fine. Your local guy that helped you all the time, and suddenly he's sending out services and discounts for an MOT to all the local neighbors, and you get that offer, of course you're going to consider it, because he's already proved he's worth it. And that's when, in this case, social media becomes very handy because it offers you opportunities to engage with those users and get their attention through different channels. And then this leads us to quite two important elements when it comes to the online reputation, which is very much driven by remarkable content and the sharing. So once you've got some remarkable content, the next thing that is going to happen is sharing. And that's in general why some of the content goes viral. But in addition to that, there is something that we haven't talked about, but is the law of 6 degrees of separation, which very much explains why things catch on and how fast things catch on, which means that according to the law of 6 degrees of separation, we are not, well, we can reach out to anyone in the world within the 6 levels from ourselves. In other words, we can reach out to anyone in the world from ourselves to 6 levels that separates us from anyone in the world today, right? So in other words, nowadays when we search something online, we find something exciting, the next thing we do is share. Then the friends of our friends share, the friends of the friends share, but before you realize it's gone viral and more than hundreds of thousands of people have had a chance to view that content. Other online marketing strategies, of course, include customer retention, pricing strategies as well, and long-tail marketing. But customer retention, again, is done through personalized and more like one-to-one marketing in general through social media as well. Other online strategies, customization, goes without saying. We talked a little bit about this as well in our customer journey last week. Customer co-production, in other words, you can build up something with the help of customers, and that's when social media can be quite handy, because social media is gold mine with information that you always wanted and you never had, right? And now that you have it, if you really know how to deal with it, you can do quite well. Customer service as well, real-time support. Pricing strategies, through fixed pricing, variable cost and demand curve, we can start to sell different products to different groups of the audiences at different price. And then we will pick up those who are willing to pay different price. And Amazon does that all the time. Free and pricing strategies, free and premium, right? Of course, we can then get some of that return from advertising. Versioning, creating multiple versions of products and selling essentially same product to different marketing segments. Bundling, again, this is where telecom comes in, because all the network providers do bundling together just to make it more attractive for you, so you don't end up paying for those mobile or smartphones that you've got on your phone straight away in the first go. Dynamic pricing as well. Web transaction give us some insights on the customers and what do they do online. Through website analysis that we have got put in place. Registration forms give us quite a bit of insight. Shopping cart databases, things that they do, we save them in a CRM, then a customer relationship management system. So then when we start to introduce marketing activities, we have got marketing activities tailored to those groups of audiences rather than just sharing it to everyone else. Of course, tracking files, that's done through the browsing cookies as well, and now the European Union made it a standard, so it's a regulation. Everyone selling stuff online, but also tracking users online, will have to get customers and users permission to do that, and you'll notice that on almost every browser that you do. Databases enable us to put together a rich amount of information on the users. Data warehouse and data mining, again, we're looking at analytics to be able to drive customers' engagement through the content that we have and through the data that we have. Once we've done a very good job with that, we might be just, attracting additional customers, but also converting some of those visitors into customers. Marketing automation becomes really important because when you've got huge amount of customers, you can't really look at all of them. You've got to have a bit of automation put in place, but that automation needs to be clever and it needs to be very specific to the specific target audience that you've got. And of course, you need to make sure that you keep an eye on that automation that happens, so then you have got a clear control as to what is being sent out all the time. So again, customer data is used to develop and sell specific products. Identify those, the most profitable customers. In this case, if we look at the Amazon, Prime users definitely bring the most money to Amazon, and that's why Amazon is willing to create content, exclusive stuff for their users, just for their Prime users, so that they stick to them and, spending a lot more money. So this way, Amazon digs deep into Prime users' pockets. Online marketing metrics, which are quite important to be thinking about. Audience size, market share, impressions, click-through rates. Impressions very much the amount of people that are actually seeing your ads. Click-through rates, how many people click through your rates. Page views, stickiness, how much time people stick to your website and stick to the content that you've got. Reach out as well. Conversion to customers. So again, this is quite an important element because once you've got someone converting, how long they're sticking to you and become as a customer. Acquisition rate, how much you're spending to acquire customers. Browse to buy rate as well, and so on. But of course, the most important one in here is the conversion rate and the amount of customers that turn into customers. Online marketing metrics, social media, conversion rate is there as important as everywhere else. But of course, if you wonder what the sentiment ratio for in this case is to see what content, what type of feeling did that content arouse into people. Was it positive or was it negative, right? And then again, you don't do that manually, but most of the online social media monitoring tools will help you do just that. Email metrics, open rate, delivery rate, click-through rate as well, a bounce back rate, which means that sometimes you might be attracting wrong types of audiences for your website. An online consumer purchasing model gives us some clear ideas as what are some of the channels that are used in the awareness and customer awareness when they've got need for information or recognition, and then how different channels drive those customers throughout those purchasing decision model to the moment where they end up buying stuff online. But again, you start to see that we start with huge amount of stats and data and impressions to get to hopefully 12 loyal customers in the long run. But again, that's gone through the awareness, search, evaluation, using all key channels. So you start to see now that to succeed online, you're going to have multiple channels in place actively to be able to do well online. Web analytics, as I said to you earlier help us to be able to track and understand how well users are doing online, but of course at the same time, how well you are managing to convert some of those visits into customers. Web analytics and the online purchasing process help us to do that, just that. So again, all these sort of metrics are explained pretty much throughout the process of purchasing behavior through the awareness, engagement, interaction. Awareness, of course, unique visitors, page views, post likes and interactions, and especially in social networking channels. Purchase, the amount of people that purchased, and then repurchase, and the service loyalty with the brand, which again can be done with the help of email and social media as well. Pay-per-click. Now, this is the last thing that I'd like to quickly talk to you about. Pay-per-click is again one of the most popular promotional channel online. Again, one of the largest one is Google in there, but of course there are a lot more providers on PPC online. These are some of the processes that I'd like you to look into at your own time. But again, just quickly, pay-per-click is quite powerful online. And of course, you are advertising next to the demand that is being expressed online. So people want what you're selling, but you need to make sure that you're there to get some of their attention. Google sells ad space through auction site on price effectiveness and landing page quality. But of course, the good thing about it is that once you buy those keywords and build those ads, you can actually have a control over the time of the day when you launch those ads and the places where you want those ads to be shown. So you can be as creative as you like with it. But of course, there is a standard that you want to follow, and the standard is the following here. So when you start to create new ads, the headline cannot have more than 25 characters, and of course the description line can have only 2 lines of 25 or 35 characters to do that, and of course it can only have one URL and a description about that URL where you want the people to go into. So behind all those ads that you see on Google search results, this is what goes in. But of course, we need to be able to provide exact matches on the things that we're trying to promote online. And this is something that, again, I'd like you to think about it, but also look into it yourselves. Because it's a skill that if you take it with you, it'll serve you in the long run. Even than buying keywords, it's something that you need to be very specific on buying keywords, because general keywords are very expensive. For instance, hearts, it's quite an expensive keyword, it's very general. But if you buy Hearts Holidays, then you're trying to be more specific, or Hearts County, for instance, if you've got a travel agency. If you wonder why we talk about this, is because Google makes billions out of advertising, and if you think, or if you don't believe that people click on those ads, just look at some of those numbers. You'll be quite surprised. Again, to make money online, you've got to have your revenue greater than your actual costs. Keywords availability, so when you buy something online, you'll need to check what keywords are available and when you can buy them. There is a video that I want you to have a look into, and some of the more data and the links are there. But there is an economist at Google that really describes how do they calculate on pricing on keywords and ads online. Top tips in the end: you need to learn how to write good ads, and you can do that by experimenting with it. If you've got a blog, spend 30-40 pounds just to promote that blog of yours, and just to learn as to how advertising through pay-per-click works online. It pays off. It's a good skill to have with you, whether you set up your own business or working for someone else. And for the activities, the power of like and the description in the website. Thank you very much.